Vermont. This quintessential piece of Americana is known for its 4 diverse seasons, its covered bridges, quaint churches, and maple syrup. If ever there was a place created for postcards and movie settings, Vermont is it. When people visit Vermont, they come for the food, for the skiing, and for the hiking. They come for the slow pace of life, the scenic drives through the fall foliage. But there is something else that lures visitors to Vermont. There is a darker, lesser-known underground in this state.
Do you feel the sting in your heart?
Unique to the state, Bennington and Rutland counties are known for their abundance of naturally formed limestone caves. These dark, underground places are dangerous, mysterious, and tantalizing for a small, eclectic group of people. These are people who seek adventure. They crave places unknown. These are cavers. They come from all walks of life. They come from boroughs and cities and backroad villages. And as different and diverse as they all have one thing in common, a passion that drives them where few others tread, underground.
The moment that I realized that I'm a true caver, I was in a cave called Gage. And I took the wet side of it, which you're swimming through water that's up to your neck. You're just swimming through it and it's ice cold. It's about below 40-degree temperatures. Swim through it, you get to this section, you have a passage. It's a teardrop shape, and it's about that wide. It's not very big, and it's full of water. You have about this much airspace, and you're sliding through on your back with your feet first, and you're hugging your nose to the ceiling. The slightest movement, and that water is going to come up. I was literally sucking air off of the ceiling with my mouth, just sucking air right off of it, just to get past that first section so I can get to the first air bell where you can put your head up and you can see the rest of the path. I just continued going through, and it's about, I want to say, a good maybe 30 feet of passage that you're on your back in water with your helmet off and just shining the light down your path. As soon as I got all the way through that passage, and I was in a big room, I realized most of the complications that people have thinking about going caving is all fear. It's fear-based. As soon as you push through that fear, you can do it just about anything.
I'm Tim Schrader. I'm the faculty member who handles all the teaching of earth science here and some of the physics. And I'm also the curriculum coordinator for the environmental studies program, and I teach some environmental science classes. Well, the first and most obvious piece is the Physiographic Valley that runs north-south. Like, you know that there has to be some underlying geological control of such a wide and distinctive valley between two mountain ranges. And you don't have to look at very much rock to figure out what it is. If you go in the Green Mountains, which are this big blocky, like big block of mountain range, you find very hard, resistant to erosion, crystalline metamorphic rocks there. And all along the front of it, the Cheshire quartzite, that incredibly hard, resistant quartzite. So yes, it's a mountain range. If you go to the Taconics, they're more pointy, jagged kind of mountains, but not quite as high elevation as the Greens, mostly. And there it's just all this black slate. You have to dig around more to find outcrops in the valley because it's all covered with the glacial fill from the Valley Glacier that was filled in there and the larger glaciers that preceded the Valley Glacier. Yeah, so on the eastern side of the Greens, you have the Cheshire quartzite,
Right.
which barely erodes, much less makes caves. to make a cave, you have to have solution cavities going on. You have to be able to dissolve out some of the rock, and the limestone, the calcium carbonate minerals that make up the limestone/marble on the western side of the valley and on the floor of the valley is slightly water soluble in acidic water. So when the slightly acidic rainfall comes down in this area, it can dissolve out a little bit of the rock, and that's why as groundwater infiltrates and moves through, you wind up dissolving openings in that rock.
Gotcha.
Where the rock that makes up most of those mountains is this slate, and it originated as a deep water sedimentary rock in the ocean that was off to our east here before New Hampshire got sandwiched on to North America. And so when the island chain that was New Hampshire now collided with this edge of North America, it shoved like a big bulldozer all of these deep water sedimentary rocks over the edge of the continent. Okay. And those became the slates in the Taconic. And the fault that separates that body of rock from what was here beforehand on this continental shelf is the Taconic Fault. Karst topography is just what you see on the surface of the land over a place where you have a bunch of caves underneath the ground. So the caves form because the slightly acidic precipitation infiltrates into the ground and dissolves out a little bit of the rock as it's flowing through fractures, and over hundreds of thousands and millions of years dissolves out more and more and more and more and makes bigger and bigger openings. And that obviously over this long period of time very slowly can make some very large cave systems. When that's going on, you're going to wind up in many places having such a big opening below the ground that the ground collapses into that opening. Gotcha. So where this is happening a lot, you'll see a topography where you have just lots of collapsed areas or circular or oblongish depressions above one of these collapsed cave openings.
Gotcha.
If it's really, really advanced, you'll have you'll have more collapsed areas than standing up areas. And then you wind up with really weird pointy hills that don't seem to be there for any particularly good reason.
Gotcha.
Hey, I'm Jeremy. I'm a 5th grade teacher. I'm here going to this cave for a second time now. I'm pretty excited about it. We got some good friends, some that have been, some that haven't, and we're just excited to get in there and check things out and get a good experience out of it. Okay.
Hi, I'm Annabelle, and I'm an art teacher, and I've been a couple times caving in Pennsylvania, and I'm really excited to be in this cave. I haven't been here before, and I'm hoping that we see some bats.
My name is Tristina. I'm the school counselor, and I am super excited about my first time caving here in Bennington.
I'm Charlie. I'm a 3rd grade teacher, and this is my probably 5th or 6th time going in this cave, and I'm excited for today because the water's really low, and I think there's going to be some passages that I have not seen yet. So fingers crossed we can do a climb and get into some new place.
Hi, I'm Shelby. I'm a store supervisor, and I've been in our public to mention that. And I've never been caving before, so this will be my first time. So I want to see I can do it.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a 2nd grade teacher. I've never been caving before. I'm very excited, but I hope that we do not see any bats.
The sport of caving is not unlike any other adventure sport. It's non-competitive in nature, much like rock climbing and kayaking. It requires physical exertion, coordination, and planning. There is a social aspect to the sport in which individuals identify themselves as cavers, creating a clan of sorts. In traditional sports, the sport defines the person. However, in caving, the people define the sport. Cavers are some of the most environmentally minded, active conservationists of any sport. Their playing fields are the rare and wondrous and fragile worlds underground, and in order to continue their sport, they must be vigilant in this conservation.
I really enjoyed our cave experience today. I had a great time. It was really fun crawling through the tight spaces. I didn't get to see any bats, which I really was looking forward to seeing. There wasn't any water in the cave, so that led us into a chamber that we got to explore, a new chamber. It was really enjoyable, and I would definitely go caving again.
I had a super good time at my first cave experience here in Bennington. We went through some really tight spaces, which I really enjoyed, and we discovered a few new rooms, which was really cool, and lots of bugs.
Would you go caving again?
I absolutely would do it again.
We just got out of the cave. Very cool, some tight spaces, but made it in, made it out.
My name's Ken Moore. I'm master electrician at Johnson State College for a day job, and I'm a caver.
Hi, I'm Peter Youngbear. I live in Plainfield, Vermont, and I'm a caver.
My name is Laura. I work in women's rights, and I am a caver.
My name is Steve Hazelton. I'm a training specialist at Rutland Regional Medical Center. My background is actually as a paramedic and teaching EMT courses for close to 30 years, and I'm a caver.
My name is Jesse De Jesus. I'm a New York City fireman. I got into caving because I figured my job wasn't dangerous enough, so I figured let me crawl through spaces where I don't fit.
I'm John Dunham. I run the Writing Center at Antioch, New England, which is in Keene, New Hampshire. And that, I guess, doesn't really qualify as a day job, but, you know, I teach people some stuff about writing, and I help them with their academic writing, and all the rest of my time I'm a caver.
So we're going to a few different caves today. We're going to Boulder Cave first, which is a couple 100 feet long. It has some really beautiful polished marble, water falling down into a waterfall that you walk along, and then a drop down that you need a hand line for. And then going over to a couple other caves, Brian's Cave, which is the uppermost cave in a system. The entire system, if it were all connected, would be the deepest cave in the northeast. It currently feeds into Purgatory Cave, which is the second deepest in the northeast. And then going over to Deer Cave, which is again a marble cave, has some bands of phyllite running through it, so you see different geology going on and the layers of rock and how water runs along an insoluble layer and then hits a layer of marble which is soluble and carved out Deer Cave. And that will probably be several hours of caving, so good trip for the day.
I think this weekend has been pretty successful. We have about, I think, 116 people show up, which for a fall NRO are usually a little smaller. So it's a little bit smaller, but this has been a pretty good turnout. I think it's been a very successful NRO. We hosted the National Organizations Convention here in Vermont back in 2010. I kind of volunteered the VCA to do that, but we had a lot of help from all the regional people too. So I like to see us involved with the whole region.
I went in my first cave at the age of 5, and I absolutely fell in love with this whole hidden underground world, and I've never been able to shake it.
I had an awesome time here in Vermont. Did a couple of caves in Albany, and no better way to spend your time, man.
And it's fun. We're all friends that get together. Some of us only see each other twice a year.
Yeah.
But we pick up right where we left off. I don't know, it's a great bunch of people. It just feels good.
The hidden caves, domes, and passages are also home to another breed of mammal. Often misunderstood, vilified in cinema, and frightened off in homes is the bat. Members of the order Chiroptera, bats are the only true flying mammal. The flying squirrel is often mislabeled as a flyer, but in fact it just performs a series of controlled falls, much like a stunt parachutist. The 6 species of bats that live in Vermont's caves, or hibernacula, are in grave danger. Despite their homes being inaccessible and safe from predators, a mysterious killer has found its way into their sanctuary. White nose syndrome was first reported in 2006 and has been linked to the death of some 5.7 million bats in the United States. In Vermont, where our bat population hibernates, in pockets that are heavily populated, it has decimated the species. Biologists from around the country and state are working feverishly to understand the full extent of the disease and its long-term impact on Vermont's bats.
So my name is Alyssa Bennett, and I work for the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department as a small mammals biologist. We are standing outside of Aeolus Cave, which is in the southern part of the state, and it's really our largest hibernacula. The majority of the bats here are little brown bats, so they come here to hibernate for the winter, and it might be really the largest site in New England. We're trying to get a better idea of what the overwinter survival is. So white nose syndrome is a disease that affects bats in the winter while they hibernate. And we initially saw about a 90% decline from the disease, especially among little brown bats, which is most of what we have here. And now, several years after the disease, everyone was asking, are bats still dying off as quickly as they were before? So we've been trying to monitor that. We did some research here last winter, and we noticed that the decline was not 90% anymore, and it looked like at least 40–45% of the bats were making it through the winter. So we're fine-tuning our methods a little bit this winter to get a better, more narrowed down idea of exactly what that survival rate is. So the two species that we see most of here are the little brown bat and the northern long-eared bat. The little brown bat, we have enough information from our winter data and summer populations that we've been monitoring to suggest that they are stabilizing now as a whole in the state. We don't know if that means that they're out of the woods yet, but I think it's a really hopeful sign. The northern long-eared bat I'm still very concerned about. Their numbers are so low. They've really lost around 98% of their population, so very small population left, and we do still see both of those species turn up dead or dying outside this hibernacula. So we'll be trapping this evening, and we're here at the fall swarm, which means it's a place where bats gather together from around the region. They actually get together and they mate this time of year, and then the males store the sperm over the winter, and the females then initiate pregnancy in the spring. So it's a neat type of strategy they have, and while they're saving energy over the winter in the hibernation. So during the fall swarm, it's an easy time to capture bats at the cave entrance. So we'll be doing that this evening, and then we'll be marking each bat with an individually numbered pit tag, we call them, passive integrated transponder. And that actually has no battery power itself, but when the bat flies through a powered antenna system we've set up, their individual number is recorded with the date and time stamp, so we know when they go in and out. So what we're actually looking at is we can pick up the timing of when they enter the cave and then the timing of when they leave. So timing is really what we're using as an indicator of whether they've made it through the winter or not. Now what happens once they get out onto the summer landscape is hard to tell. Bats still might die even if they've made it through the winter, but let's say we have a bat that flies in October, so we pick it up going through that system. We have a time stamp that it was October 5th it went in, and then we see that bat come out on April 20th. We would consider that a bat that survived because we know the temperatures are warm enough, there's enough insect activity, that bat could survive. It's a normal time for them to come out. If that bat exited on January 5th and we never saw it again in the reader system, we would be concerned that that bat was not one that survived. That's very typical behavior of a bat that's sick with white nose syndrome, is to leave in the middle of the winter. So Aeolus is kind of the perfect site for this type of research because the cave has an initially large entrance, but then it narrows down and it goes through a constriction where we can set this equipment up. So it's a narrow passageway the bats will fly through, so we can kind of, catch them all, if you will, in that reader system as they go through. And then there's a very extensive system down low where they all hibernate for the winter. Other sites might have an entrance that won't allow us to set the equipment up, that's too large or something like that. And other sites won't have the fall swarm activity that this one does. A lot of our smaller sites, we don't see bats all swarming around the entrance, so it's hard to catch them. Work done in the 60s by Davis and Hitchcock actually suggested that a lot of their recapture work would point to there being 200 to 300,000 bats at this site. And we know that the little brown bat, the most common species here, declined by about 90% across the state. And so that would lead us to believe that there's about 10% of that population left. I think probably the biggest concern is the fact that bats are the predominant nighttime forager on insects, meaning that things like moths, beetles, agricultural pests, forest pets, pests to people like mosquitoes and other aquatic insects, that without bats there as a predator in the system, there's some concern that that prey base will actually maybe increase in population, which could be an issue for agriculture and the forest industry. When I've spoken to entomologists, they've said that it's difficult to draw a relationship between the two populations because insect populations are so variable with weather and other factors like that. So it could be difficult to really point to a cause and effect relationship, but I think it would be difficult to imagine that if you lose 90% of a predator population, that that's not going to have some effect on the prey. Yeah, I think education really is one of the biggest tools. Bats are definitely a group of animals that have been really widely feared and sort of mysticized. They fly at night, so people don't really get a positive close-up interaction with them. They tend to come close by and erratic, unexpected movements. So they've been really scary to people in the past, and as people learn more about them and understand them better, their biology, their behavior, they become less scary. And then those are more people then that are kind of on the side of conservation, if that's putting money towards something or just being more aware if there's a bat in the house, how to get it out safely instead of swatting at it with a tennis racket.